Dueling Dialogues is brought to you by our affiliates at IX Web Hosting. Click the banner on the rightleftchronicles.com to get up to 40% off your first year of the best hosting on the planet. Today's episode of Dueling Dialogue is brought to you by Saucy Eva. GMA's marinade is coming soon to a plate near you to gourmetize your meats and proteins. Coming to you from that once-forgotten artery that pulses through the center of the continental United States and into the heart of the Ozarks, Grace Matthews. Looking in from the northern border, our Canadian friend, along with his countrymen feeling the effects of U.S. political issues, Connor Murphy.
Welcome to episode 22 of Dueling Dialogues. I'm Connor Murphy here with Grace Matthews. Hi, Grace. Glad to have you back with us.
Thank you. I've started happy hour early.
Yeah, I hear that. Some nice painkillers for you.
Yeah, yesterday was quite an experience.
Definitely.
Salivary stones are painful.
Never heard of that before. Didn't know that existed.
Oh my gosh. I hope you never experience it because it is painful.
Oh, well, I'm just glad you're okay and you're here with us and able to talk today.
Yes, I am able to talk.
Good. So what do we have on today's show?
Well, today we're going to talk about the new Enlightenment.
Sweet.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Trump represents something, and we're calling it the new Enlightenment.
I prefer something.
Well, it is change, so it's still kind of all about change.
Right.
We've been talking a lot for the past 2 or 3 weeks about change, and
well, I have to agree. Trump is probably the biggest change that we've seen in years. And after the election, everybody said, "Well, people just want to change."
That's true, and you're right. We have not had an awful lot of change. I mean, sure, you got Republican, you got Democrat, and you kind of go back and forth through history. But has anybody really been changed? I mean, they say Reagan was, and to a certain extent he was, but not to the extent Trump is.
Absolutely.
Now, you have studied a lot of spirituality, Reiki, and a lot of those disciplines discuss change. Change is perpetual. If we do not change, eventually we cease to exist. In fact, very quickly. So generally speaking, change is not elective.
Right.
And regardless of whether you participate in change or not, change is going to happen to you.
Absolutely.
It happens no matter what you do. And it kind of goes hand in hand with that idea that actually drives me crazy. I live in the Midwest, and one of the things that really bothers me around here is that sometimes people just don't want to make a decision. But they don't understand that when you don't make a decision, you're making a decision.
To not make a decision.
Yeah, I mean, it really is so counterproductive because if you really want to control something, then you have to do it. Passively not doing something, like we said, is still making a decision, but it's losing control.
Yeah.
Which is the very thing that scares us most.
I'm sure right now, somewhere out there in podcast land, there is a guy sitting in that fancy chair in the front of a woman's shop waiting for his wife to make a decision.
Correct. There is no doubt about it. But that's why nowadays they have a lot of little pubs in the malls.
Great idea.
That's for men with indecisive women.
Yeah, not here yet. But I guess some of them do have pubs. But I just tend to try and stay right the hell away from the mall.
Yeah, I'm not much on the mall either. And actually, malls are suffering a bit as people buy more and more online.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we are digressing.
Yeah, we are. But it's all part of change.
Well, it's all part of Friday.
Yeah.
And, as citizens, our role in the cycle of change is up to us.
Absolutely.
Except outside of natural disaster, which we've had plenty of, we get to pretty much decide. People that don't want to consume news and learn about events happening in the world are wishful pacifists. I kind of don't understand how you can live your life, make decisions, good decisions, and not be familiar with the news. We all know those people. You know, when you go out to dinner or you're having a drink and you say, well, what about, you know, whatever it was you heard on the news today? And they go, I don't listen to news.
Been there. And isn't that an odd, awkward feeling?
It is. It's like, do you breathe?
Yeah, I
mean,
absolutely cannot even imagine what's going through their heads.
Well, they cling to the idea that not knowing is not synonymous with not happening. Just because you don't know about it doesn't mean it's not happening. I do understand that ignorance is bliss.
Right.
You know, if you don't know about something, then you can't worry about it. But
exactly,
it's still happening.
Yeah.
So that is, you know, it's illogical. And I think until recently in the United States, we had a lot of those people. I don't know about Canada, but I think that in the United States, it's been the exception. It's been the norm rather than the exception. Suddenly, though, there has been a veil lifted off the masses. And they're seeing what they couldn't or wouldn't see before.
Yeah.
There are people right now involved on both sides, you know, conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, whatever, that have never been involved before, that are taking active notice. The news shows and even shows like ours and our website are getting a lot of attention that was previously spent elsewhere, like football. But people are more interested and more aware. It doesn't mean that everybody agrees.
Right.
Because they don't. But there is an elevation in awareness. So what's happened?
Oh, I think the exact same thing is happening in Canada and did. People were tired of the Harper government and we saw a change. And who did we bring in? The globalist Trudeau. So we see it too. And I know those same people, the people that did not even watch the news a few years ago are, I would say, are anarchists now. It's at least they are on social media. I don't know what their real life is, but I see it every day.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're getting a lot more people, like you said, obsessed with the news.
Yeah.
I think that electing Trudeau in Canada was similar to us electing Obama in 2008, his first term.
So you think we're 8 years behind then?
I do. I mean, I just think the change cycle, you know?
Well, yeah, the cycle was actually is the election cycle. So we had to wait our turn. But
exactly. Yeah. So, and whoever comes after Trudeau could be quite different. But Obama was our first change.
Yeah. Noticeable change.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Bush was very establishment, very much of the same. And Obama was a change. You know, not as much of a change as I believe people thought they were voting for in him.
Right.
And I wonder if it'll be the same for Trudeau.
Yes. Already he's, you know, a lot of people that were pro Trudeau are going, wait a minute. This ain't good.
There's one big thing they have in common that you already mentioned, globalist.
Yes.
And both of them are very ardent globalists.
Absolutely. I'm not sure what I'd rather have right now. I'm more confused than anything.
Oh, I know. Well, and you know, we can't really see into the future. We can only project.
Or we can stop watching the news.
Yeah, and just let the news happen to us. Yeah.
Just join the sheeple. Yeah.
You know, the other day we discussed George Lakoff.
Right.
And I'm a little obsessed with George Lakoff because I think he wrote the book that explains the place where Obama and the progressives came from. Like I said before, it was given to me by an old Acorn worker. during Obama's first election cycle. And it really does explain where he comes from. In The Political Mind, that's the name of George Lakoff's book, he talks about how people make decisions based on their emotions. And during the Obama years, the far left gained a great deal of success by using this method, which means that they made their politics always about empathy.
Right.
Now, it could be empathy to gay people, empathy to poor people, empathy to people in Iran or Mexico. It really doesn't matter what it is. It is empathy, and it usually is married to identity politics.
Right.
Because what is more empathetic and attention-getting than drawing something back to a group of people? Okay, and if you do not want to help that particular group of people, you are a jerk. Okay? Now, when you use logical politics and you're talking about wanting to build a bridge, it's okay to be a jerk. But if you don't want to be nice to people, doesn't matter what group of people, then you are a big fat jerk.
Right.
So, by applying this empathetic angle to each and every issue, it appealed to the political mind that George Lakoff talked about in what I always call his playbook. So, I think we agree upon that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that the empathy was what happened and took place, and it is what worked.
And you know what? I seen this on Facebook the other day too. In that somebody posted, it was like 4 separate pictures in a collage, and it was past presidents hugging victims of some sort of natural disaster, and then there was a picture of Trump that was tossing out paper towels or something. So what you were just talking about really reminded me of that meme. If I can find it, I'll post it on the video version of the podcast.
Yeah, do that.
But it was kind of comical, but that's what really triggered me remembering that picture is what you just said.
Well, yeah, and you know, it's funny because what everybody says about Trump is he is so kind and personable one-on-one. There was a lady, one of the shooting victims in Vegas yesterday. She had just met with the president. He had came to her hospital room. And she is very much a liberal Democrat, she said. But she said he was so much different than the guy on Twitter. She talked about on Twitter. She said he was so kind and so personable. So what you say is just part of that dichotomy, you know, throwing the paper towels, like he's throwing those people under the bus.
Right.
But they say people that actually do interact with him say that he isn't like that. But
once you get over his weird handshake, that is.
Oh yeah, you love the handshake thing.
Oh yeah, that pulling thing is just so weird. It was neat when he met Trudeau, and Trudeau was kind of prepared for it, so they kind of had that standoff, yanking each other's hand, yank fest.
But you know, a handshake does tell a lot about a person. But I don't want to go.
We're digressing.
Yeah, we're terrible. Yeah. Anyway, so what happened so quickly that we gained Donald Trump? That's our new question. What happened to empathy? Because there is nothing about the Trump the presidential win, that screams empathy. In fact, it is pretty much the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely.
People weren't looking for, Obama was the hope and change guy. Yeah. And I think empathy went right along with that.
But nothing really changed, did it?
No, it didn't. It really didn't. Trump is just the opposite. And when you think about 8 years, well, and really 4 because Obama was elected twice, we just upended this empathy idea.
Opposite end of the scale. Boom.
Exactly. So let's talk about this. Okay. The new Enlightenment. What truly is the new Enlightenment? Trump is a populist, which means he represents a pragmatic idealism. that coincides with business practices. After all, he's a businessman. Okay? He likes to negotiate. So when you are pragmatic and you like to negotiate, you go to the bargaining table and you get as much of what you want as you can.
Right. You try to win.
Exactly. You sure as hell don't walk away without anything. And a lot of times people will walk away with nothing as a matter of principle.
Right.
That is one principle that Trump would never entertain. But if you do that, you walk away from the table without anything. It's what? It's an emotional decision.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So it was and is Obama's form of government. There's this principle, and this government was defined and taught by the progressives, the linguist and George Lakoff. So what we have is we got this guy that is not going to, is going to walk away from the table without anything, Obama, and he did often. That's why we didn't get change.
Right. There's still stuff from NAFTA that's not solved.
Exactly. Because if you didn't want to take his whole package, then it was nothing. That's why we got this whole big Obamacare.
Right.
That is just, he stuck stuff in there about guns. He stuck things in there about, having your doctor, and he would tie it to healthcare because he wanted your doctor to ask you if you had guns in your house.
I had no idea.
At your annual checkup. So he would twist it, and if he couldn't have everything, then he, like I said, he wanted nothing. So you totally have this different ideal. That's why Trump could have dinner with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer from the Democratic side, and he could get a nugget of what he wanted for the future. Yeah. And he could give them a little something too. It's called negotiation. The other thing Trump is that we have kind of touched on already is Trump is a nationalist. Obama, Trudeau, globalists.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Trump believes in America first. Nationalism, regardless of what your politics are, is a logical idealism. It's birthed from a discipline that is almost biblical at its roots. And, a lot of religious people follow Trump, and not because he's religious.
Yeah. That's
for darn sure. Okay, and I've mentioned this before. Even as Cain asked God, am I my brother's keeper? One can argue that biblically speaking, Trump appeals to that logical idea. That is, you take care of your family first, your community second, your country third, and last is the rest of the globe. That's like if you have starving kids in your city or in your family, the ideal is you take care of them first.
Right.
It is a logical way of taking care of things. Where an empathetic role is you run to the place that is, by somebody's definition, the worst.
Yeah. Well, I think we are actually moving towards the New World Order and what has caused that is the technology that we do have today. It's global. I can talk to friends in Australia and the UK in seconds. They're basically in my living room with me with my laptop, so
that's true.
We reach so much further than we ever did before.
But we were going there with Obama.
Right.
With Trump, we're not. And, he's ticked off the rest of the world. When Bloomberg writes, the New World Order is leaving the U.S. behind, American allies have decided Trump is simply not someone they can do business with, then we pretty much upset that apple cart.
Yeah, and like I can see that happening.
And he cares about the globe. But it's not first on his list. First on his list is you take care of, your family, your country, your community. It's kind of like we were talking about with Puerto Rico the other day.
Right.
Puerto Rico with Trump is going to be taken care of. But that's going to be behind Houston and the Texas area and Florida, because that's the community. That's his spot. Obama, in the same situation, would have probably given Puerto Rico more. And he probably would have justified it by the fact that they are a poor community.
I would see that. I agree with that for sure. Yeah, there's definitely some big differences in the politics of yesterday to what we're facing right now.
Oh, yeah, and it's very short.
We talked about it actually before, the Allies pulling out, like with their missile defense over North Korea. The Canadians decided that we're not going to go in with you guys on the missile defense system for North America. So that started to happen a long time ago, where the Allies were pulling out. So yeah, I see it happening.
It is. And so where it will end and how long will the Trump idealism maintain, we don't know. Trump is also drain the swamp. That's Trump's mantra, and this really means no more of the old shadow government.
Yeah.
That thrives on political blackmail, that has good old boys calling the shots in the background.
Right.
These people are resistant to change. The swamp is resistant to change. They, again, are the guys much like Obama, and in some ways, Obama was like the establishment in the way his mechanics, the way he did things. But these are guys that will go to the table and they'll stalemate if they don't get everything they want.
Right, which we see happening.
Yeah, Trump is the anti-establishment, anti-swamp, anti-power broker, anti-empathetic approach. And with that approach, a new kind of voter emerged. And it's not typical Republican. It's not typical Democrat, for sure.
I agree with
that. It is a populist. It is a lot of blue-collar Democrats. It is a lot of Republicans, middle-class and lower-class Republicans. Some of the upper crust, they don't like it because they don't like change.
Yeah.
The status quo keeps them right where they want to be. So, again, we ask, what happened to George Lakoff's voters? All with emotionally charged minds. Okay, Connor, can you say evolution?
Yeah.
That is, if you were on the right, you would say that.
Yeah.
Can you say regression? You might if you recite on the left. Now, that's not to say they're not still emotional people out there. And as we talk about Obama's army and his particular shadow government, these are still people that are reacting to that empathy.
Right.
So I'm not saying they're all gone, or that because they do not use logic that they're somehow lesser. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this is what is going on.
Right.
This is the facts. So certainly both have taken place in history. We have certainly evolved, and at times we have certainly regressed. That's why we can't remember why and how we built the pyramids. So, who knows what happened, So we do regress, but it all happens so quickly. I mean, when you take the span of our lifetime, things have happened quickly. You and I are about the same age. We've seen microwaves come about.
Cell phones go from bricks to these slim little things we put in our pocket. And we can send somebody to the moon with a cell phone.
Exactly.
Or we could have.
So it's happened really fast. And in the past, 5-10 years since the internet has really began to establish itself. It's certainly been a part of technology that's boomed for more than 20 years.
Right.
But in the past 5 or 10 years, you've seen Google, Facebook, Twitter. These things all really change our culture.
Yeah, change our way of thinking.
Exactly. So my thought is technology rewiring our brains?
Huh. Well, I think so. I think the children of tomorrow are going to have a much different upbringing than we had. I mean, all the crazy, stupid shit that I did when I was a kid was never on Facebook because nobody had a camera. And geez, we would have never posted it on Facebook because our parents would have seen it. Now kids
Exactly.
just go ahead and they don't even seem to think. It's just a part of life for them where to us it was new and different. They don't see that. It's always
No, they
been there.
don't.
It's
No,
not
they don't.
it's not change for them. It was change for us.
Well, and this technology feeds us a transparency,
Yeah.
like you're talking about. And there is little need for intellectual hypotheses. For example, if you can Google something and find the real answer, you and I aren't going to sit around and
Argue.
hypothesize
Yeah.
about why I've got a lump on the side of my face, or what it really means when they say you have, stones in your saliva glands. I can walk over to the computer. The doctor really didn't even have to tell me that much. And, in the past, we would have come home from the doctor and chatted about how that could happen. Now I can look it up and
there
I
you
know
go.
why it happened.
Yeah.
But we don't have to project as much. We can know. So there is this transparency. And on top of that, empathy really is being replaced by Google.
By data and logic.
Exactly.
Change is happening and has happened.
Yeah, if I want to tell you something, I can Google it and forward it to you in an email, and we don't have to waste our time talking.
Yeah.
I kind of miss talking. And but our kids, it's like I was telling you the other day. I have, a camera on my front doorstep. I know when my 21-year-old son comes and goes. Well, bless his heart. I wouldn't have wanted my parents to have video every time I come and went out the door.
Yeah. Oh, geez, that's a bad thought.
Yeah. Well, but on the other hand, that's back when people dated and the guy would drive the girl home, and I wouldn't want my parents seeing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Now they don't even do that part. They don't really go on dates and the guy brings the girl home. They meet someplace and hang out.
Netflix and chill.
Yeah. So,
there's change right there for you.
Yeah, there is change, So it's no wonder that we've evolved so quickly out of an emotional state, characteristic of the old Enlightenment, and into a logical-based new Enlightenment. The real question is, which is preferable for a nation, emotion or logic?
I'm right down the middle with that one. A little of both.
And I think that lots of things are better in the middle. But, change is good, There's an article by Annie Alexander, and she goes, just going to go through them really quickly. 10 good reasons why we should love change. Because of personal growth, flexibility. It encourages us to be adaptable. Improvements. We can't improve if we don't change. It helps us reevaluate our life values, which is a good idea because our first ones aren't always the best, our first deals. It is a snowball effect, kind of like you're talking about, when you do something well or one part of your life goes well, then it all seems to follow,
right.
Kind of like the Midas touch. It also gives us strength. We progress. It also offers us opportunities.
Opens new doors, yeah.
Exactly, new beginnings. It eliminates perpetual routine, like the Groundhog Day. And it does remind me of Einstein's famous theory. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
And my brain goes straight to The Simpsons, where Homer keeps touching the donut that's electrified.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, that's pretty much it right there. So I definitely agree. This change is is a good thing, but I think that emotion or logic, on or off, black or white, it's not really like that. It's more complex, and I think we got to be more down the center, a little bit of emotion, and take that into consideration with the logic.
I kind of agree with you.
Wow.
And because Obama and Trump are truly polar opposites.
Absolutely.
I don't think that's altogether bad, and Trump certainly hasn't been in office long enough for us to draw a conclusion about what, if anything, he's going to get done. But I tend to gravitate a little bit towards the center. So it's interesting.
Well, they say to have a good life, you must have balance.
That's right.
And what is balance? Just what we were talking about just now. So we agree.
We agree. And we don't always agree.
Nope.
But life's a journey, and we're all in this together. So thanks for listening. Godspeed, Connor, and Godspeed to all of our friends out there.
Godspeed. Thanks for listening, and welcome back, Grace.
Thank you.
Dueling Dialogues is brought to you by our affiliates at IX Web Hosting. Click the banner on the rightleftchronicles.com to get up to 40% off your first year of the best hosting on the planet. Today's episode of Dueling Dialogue is brought to you by Saucy Eva. GMA's marinade is coming soon to a plate near you to gourmetize your meats and proteins.